This is how big tech companies and any companies infected by the virus of social justice, such as Google in this case, this is how they fail. Google's got a monopoly. They can be lazy fucks. They can do almost no work and just rake in the money from their search monopoly until something starts to fuck with that. And these trends that are going to kill these companies are beginning to be put in place now. And it's good because these companies are racist, bigoted, sexist clusterfucks that arguably more importantly than that, aren't focusing on what companies should be focusing on. They're not focusing on profits. Google Stadia, of course we know Google is now irredeemably, it's just a basket of irredeemables at Google. They're irredeemably infected with extremist left ideas. Fuck whites, fuck men, fuck straight people. Fuck gamers, fuck anything that men like. We need to come in, and because there's more men in this area, therefore that's proof of sexism, and maybe we'll throw racism in there as well. So we need to undo this sexism. Whereas in reality, in this case, Google Stadia, which is its gaming system that doesn't work, streamed games. In reality, girls just aren't into serious games. Girls don't like it. Sorry, men and women are different. Gender isn't a social construct. Girls don't like serious gaming, almost entirely. And of course, there's some exceptions, but this is a reality. So what did Google do? They came up with, it looks like a spoof, the inspiration behind the new Stadia controller. It's in this short video, of course, there's a black man of colour who goes into a house with an Asian man of colour and a white woman. No white men, because as we know, white men are the untouchable Dalek class in the Republic of Google. White men are just there to be janitors, sweep the floor, and do all the fucking work on the search engine that makes all the money. With some Asians. It's actually problematic that there's an Asian in this film because they're actually, in some ways, they benefit from white privilege. That's why they actually out-earn whites in society. Only really Jews are even more privileged. No Jews in this film that we can see, although the woman may be a Jew, who knows. But this is already problematic. But we have a black man of colour. Ideally, this would have just been 3 dwarf albino trans women of colour, Native Americans. And that would have been old and unattractive. That would have been an ideal video. I'm surprised Google dropped the ball. But we have a black man of colour talking in a kitchen about games controllers. Now, actually, it turns out that probably the main reason they have an East Asian man in there is because he designed the fucking controller. So they needed someone who does actual work. And, of course, you can't have a white male. So they've gone to the second least bad option, which at least you can call him of colour. And he's got slightly dark skin as well, so that'll get you some points, Google. But they're in a kitchen, and they're talking about making a controller because knives have grips, but professional knives don't, so you can use the knife sideways. Which makes sense because people want to use controllers sideways. Okay. But it's all right, no one's going to use this because Stadia doesn't work. It's a complete dumpster fire. But yes, they're trying to make a controller for groups who traditionally weren't thought about in controller design. What the fuck are you talking about? I guess when you're actually doing work on products that need to be developed, like this guy was, you can't just say, I made a game controller, it's pretty good, we tested it onto people. You have to invent an entire screed of bullshit around it about how this controller is aimed at traditionally marginalized gaming communities, such as women with tiny hands. Women don't play hardcore games, sorry. Very few women play hardcore games. But even then, this is bullshit. If you've got tiny hands, you need a smaller controller, but there aren't enough people with tiny hands. Hands too small to use normal game controllers. A lot of game controllers are used by children anyway, who have small hands. There is no issue here. He's making a point which is bullshit anyway, because this controller looks exactly like every fucking other game controller for the last 10 years. He's just copied Sony and Xbox. That's all he's done. But okay, so what's actually happened here is he's done some useful work. He's made a controller and he's basically copied those companies. That's where the journey begins at Google and other extremist left Silicon Valley dumpster fire companies who are going out of business because they must. I'll come to that later. But yeah, you make the product and then you have to come up with a fairy story about how this controller supports traditionally marginalized communities by thinking about the controller for small hands. How the fuck is this controller better for small hands than any other controller? It isn't. That's just complete bullshit. But to do anything, to maneuver, to move, to do any work in fascist, bigoted, extremist organizations in Silicon Valley, of which most of them, virtually all of them are, you have to spend time coming up with this ridiculous narrative about how you're ending oppression with a fucking game controller. It's just a fucking game controller. Why is the man introducing this video? Why is he black? I have nothing against black dudes introducing videos, but was it if you just happen to have a black person, then choose a black person. You happen to have a white person, choose a white person. But notice there's no white men in this video. Did this happen by accident? Almost certainly not. They chose the people in this video because they're not white men. They're deliberately excluding white men. Now, who is the biggest gaming segment in the world? It's fucking white men. They've got most of the money in the world, and it's mostly men who are into serious gaming. So Google is demonizing its biggest audience, and all you have to do is look at the comments on this video and the ratio. Got twice as many downvotes as upvotes. All of the comments are just cutting, just ridicule. And it is interesting. A lot of them comment on the fact that, this controller is for women. And there was another interview that they did. They chose a woman-friendly color in another article when they interviewed the person that made the controller. And I say cutting deliberately. They based the controller design on a knife handle, which is fucking stupid because knives are completely different. So it's some like, again, bullshit that seems logical and wow, that sounds profound in the video. It's fucking bullshit. A knife isn't a game controller. Why the fuck are you comparing them, you moron? But there's all sorts of funny comments under the video, such as, well, it's good that when women are using this, they're able to have the feel of a knife because then they can go and make me a sandwich between games, things like that. Women should be comfortable with holding a knife in a kitchen. But of course, these are funny jokes. But these are things that the extremist left would want to shut down. You're not allowed jokes anymore, unless it's a joke against a white man, of course. So the extreme leftists at Google, you wouldn't be able to you'd lose your job if you made any of these jokes at Google. Because one of the key tenets of the far left who own that company now is humorlessness, joylessness. You're not allowed to have fun. You're not allowed to make any joke. You're not allowed to say anything that's remotely could be considered slightly istphobic or whatever. Fuck them. These are funny jokes. Women should be used to using a knife in a kitchen because a woman should be in the kitchen. Do you think women don't go in kitchens? Like, what's your point here? But my main point is this is why big Silicon Valley companies will fail. How do companies succeed? They succeed by making money. That's all companies really should do, is make money. That's how a company succeeds. If you make more money than your competitors, you can spend more on marketing. If you have lower costs of producing the same thing, you can undercut them in the market. Making money is what companies do, and it's a societal benefit. Silicon Valley has recently switched away from trying to make money. It's no longer its aim. This is why all its companies will fail. If Google stays on this course, I predict it will be bought out or out of business within 20 or 30 years because it is no longer focusing on making money. And this is supposed to be, this is effectively an ad. This is the inspiration behind the new Stadia controller. It's effectively an ad. What should an ad do? It should appeal to your core market primarily, and it should get them to buy whatever it is you're selling. What does this ad do? It specifically excludes the core market, white men, and says how they've designed the controller for people who couldn't use other controllers. Why the fuck could a woman not? How small do you think women's hands are? So many children use game controllers. So you think women have smaller hands than 8-year-old boys? So it's bullshit. But so it's bullshit premise anyway. The overarching idea here is supposed to be, oh look, we're opening up a new market so we can sell Stadia to a new market. Right? It's bullshit because you've just copied the Xbox and PlayStation controller. So that's bullshit anyway. Women can use existing controllers. So that's a non-issue. But you've alienated your core market by just doing transparent SJW bullshit. Do you know who hates transparent SJW bullshit? Gamers are getting really sick of that because for some reason, games journalism, games urinalism is it's just a cesspool of extreme left, racist against whites, bigoted, sexist against men politics, which is weird because most gamers are white men. Most serious gamers are white men. And this is what Google's doing here. It's effectively a hit piece on your core demographic. If you wanted to do the worst marketing possible, like no marketing would be better than this. If you wanted to do the worst marketing possible, you would do a hit piece on your core demographic. Google should be trying to sell its products. It should be showing how good the games are. But it's not doing that. It's doing a social engineering hit piece on its core demographic. It's like Google's search engine now is gone. You shouldn't be using it. It's socially engineering you constantly. It's not giving you a real view of the world. If you look up CEOs, loads of women come up. Very few women CEOs. Women don't want to put in the time to do that role. Women are not interested in doing that role, so there's fewer women CEOs. But loads of women come up if you search for CEOs. It's social engineering. Men can have periods, apparently. No, they can't. Sorry. Men can give birth. No, they can't. Sorry. But these are the results coming up in Google search engines. So, yeah, Google is no longer trying to be profitable. It's now trying to socially engineer you. When a company that's supposed to make money loses sight of making money in the way that Google is doing, now that social justice, low IQ idiots have taken over the company entirely. Now social justice is the aim of the company, but social justice, highly immoral, bigoted, sexist, racist set of ideas. The correct set of ideas is post-racial society, equality, not equity, equality, giving everyone equality of opportunity. This is where society should be going. And instead, Google is a racist company and a bigoted company. And these bigots and racists have taken over Google now. And that's a problem when you have to make money. Google has massive costs. So, yeah, they've taken their eye off the ball. And if this keeps happening, if they keep on this road, which leads directly off a cliff, they'll be out of business in 20 or 30 years. I hope they are out of business because we need a shake-up. We need to end this bigotry. We need to end this disgusting racism and sexism. And it's just terrible for business. Just continually demonizing your core market. How fucking stupid. Are people at Google stupid or are they scared? I think they're just scared. They're just scared to be called istophobic. They've got families, they've got a mortgage. I don't want to be called racist or homophobic. I'm just going to go along with this. People at Google, it's time to fucking stand up. All right, if you really can't lose your job, don't do it. But we need 1%, 5%, 10% of the key staff at Google doing important jobs. We need them to start blowing the whistle. Because if enough people do this at the same time, you're going to have, that company's going to be gutted. All the extreme leftists, the diversity, shakedown department, the wokists, they all need to get the fuck out. None of them are doing useless. How many developers who are wokists are at Google? Can't be more than 5%. Right? The developers tend to be intelligent people who do not fall for this kind of propagandist bullshit. So if enough developers at Google stand up and say, look, let's just put the brakes on this. You've gone far too fucking far. That company will implode or it will bend to the will of these developers. Same with everywhere else in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of developers with their heads down, fucking hating every minute of this. Well, if you're one of them, especially if you are single, if you have money in the bank, you've got the flexibility to do what you want, like James Damore, Just fucking make this happen. Coordinate. There should be, and I assume there already is some kind of underground society there. Coordinate, hit Google all at the same time with an extremely reasonable set of demands. Do it very publicly. Embarrass them. Embarrass the leadership at Google, because it's disgusting what they've done. It's absolutely disgusting. They know this is all bullshit. They know social justice is bullshit. They know it's bigoted and racist and sexist, but they're scared. They're scared little people. They're too afraid to say no. We're not going to call white men Dalits. We're going to push for a post-racial society. We're not going to wallow in fucking victimhood. We're going to be honest about these things. We're going to make sure there's no bias in our hiring policy. We're not going to bias our hiring policy deliberately against white men, which is clearly what Google's doing, as James Damore showed. Pretty much what every major company is now doing. Every major company has racism, sexism, bigotry at its heart, and it's socially acceptable. Well, no. It's time for people to stand up against this, because there is a backlash coming. And this backlash can either be civilized one, where adults discuss things sensibly, or it can be a fucking end of civilization. It can be a riot. It can be a war zone. Anything could happen. There's a huge number of angry people out there. There's a huge number of angry developers at Google who are just beaten down every day by this bullshit. And James Damore was the tip of the iceberg. If you're one of these people at big tech, please, and you have the flexibility, stand up. Get this coordinated, get this done. We need the bigots out. We need the bigotry removed from all these big corporations. Go forth, my warriors.
This was the Deviant Developer Podcast. Tap subscribe in any podcast app to never miss an episode. To contact me or make a welcome donation, go to thedeviantdeveloper.com.